into this. I'm Gina. If you guys don't know me, I'm slowly trying to bring back my maiden name because Rada is a dead name to me now. So if you wouldn't mind calling me Gina Griffith, she would make me happy that I was wanting the industry to transition with me. And yeah, that name no longer needs to be associated with me. But I do have kids, so I still have to love that name. It's easier to spell, so that's good. I'm an energy consultant. I've been doing this since 1991. Anyone else been doing this since? Pat's here. Who else has been doing this since 1991? There's a few of us. Do you remember when it was just package A and package B? That was it. Then they added C. Then they added D. Then they added E. And then the next letter was F. And they decided they didn't want any F's in the state of California, so they redid the whole code, and now we have table 150.1-A. That is a little history of packages associated with the energy code. Does anyone know what the very, very, very first energy code requirement was for all buildings? What do you think is the most important thing a building can do?
Double pane glass?
That came in the late 90s.
Wall insulation?
Wall insulation came in the late 90s. Roof insulation. R30 at the roof was our very first energy code requirement. But let's move on because it is on steroids now, right? How many of you are working in the multifamily arena right now? That's in here in the room. Do you guys agree with me that multifamily buildings are the hardest? Because you have to know non-residential occupancies, you need to know multifamily occupancies, you need to know what low-rise versus high-rise means. What's a mixed occupancy? Ooh, like 90%, ooh, like 80%. How are we supposed to keep this all in our heads? It's very difficult. I feel people who do multifamily can do anything. We're going to save the planet sooner than everyone. Tools. Who here uses Reference ACE? All of you better raise your hand. 2025 Reference ACE is available now. It's still a little bit in a beta mode because we got the code book really late. Anyone from the CEC in the room? I'll be nice to you, Sahar. You haven't been there long enough for me to heckle you. But next conference, just you're warned, okay? So we are moving a little bit behind. We're a little behind in updating things for 2025, but it is happening. Who uses the Virtual Compliance Assistant? Okay, the Virtual Compliance Assistant helps support prescriptive multifamily and non-residential buildings. It will not help you with single family. Why is that? Why does Energy Code ACE not love single family? What do you have to do with all your single family forms? You have to register them. And that's the major reason why Energy Code ACE hasn't gone there, because you need to work with a HERS provider. Soon to be called We are slowly going to be introducing the 2025 forms, and we are promising January 1st, even if we have to work 24 hours a day over Christmas like we did last code cycle. If any of you guys need Ben, give him a hug, because he deserves all the love in the world, trying to get those forms available to us as soon as possible. Training, we're updating all our training. Who here has taken the smooth, docile tones of Martin Dodd's What's New for this 2025 code cycle? I'm a little bit spicier than Martin, but otherwise we like to do the same content. Resources, we're in the process of updating everything to 2025. That has been my life for the last year, and I never want to see the 2025 code again come January 1st. But all of this for free at www.energycodeace.com. We're here for you. Mandatory prescriptive performance. Who was in my last session? Do you want to get up and tell everyone what mandatory? Yeah. So mandatory, you gotta do it. Gotta do it. I have clients, I don't want to do it. I'm like, I don't care. This is red. It's red. Red means you got to do it, but I don't want to. Okay? Go ahead, do what you want, but I will be having a phone call with your building department. That's all I'm saying. Prescriptive is a methodology but it's also a set of requirements that has to meet the cost-effectiveness requirements of the energy code, of which it has to be shown that it will save the energy that will pay for that particular building feature over its lifetime. That's why prescriptive measures are different to our 16 climate zones. This is why prescriptive measures often are different for scopes of work. What is the least expensive time to integrate energy efficiency? New construction, additions, or alterations? New construction. And that's why the energy code has, I think, 9 new construction chapters, but only 3 addition alteration chapters. Because the energy efficiency we can capture with new construction is easier, cheaper than it's going to be when I have existing infrastructure in play and I'm adding on to that building or I'm altering that building. I get to use the performance approach for all prescriptive measures. Is that true? Who was in my last session? What is that performance calculation including? Conditioned areas of the building only. Is every single room in your multifamily buildings conditioned with space heating or space cooling? No. We have yet to have conditioned parking garages. Most of our trash rooms are not conditioned, though thank God we have fans. Hey, did you guys know the ventilation requirements do not apply to unconditioned spaces? Only conditioned spaces? How do I know that? How do I know only conditioned spaces have ventilation requirements? Can I say it with such confidence? What's Gina's favorite table? Come on, you guys, we're in my last session. Table 100.0-A. You guys better be starting there every single time, because how much is told to you in that table is not even funny. That is the index to the energy code. It is table 100.0-A, and it will tell you what building features you can use the performance approach for and what building features you cannot use it for. It's right there in the table. If it says NA in the performance column, can't do it. How many of you are only given one compliance form for a project? You give them the performance form and that's it. They're like, yeah, no way in hell, Gina, you're not going to catch me twice. I'm not going to raise my hand because I know you'll get on me. That means you're not doing your job. Because we have so many requirements that require documentation and that the design and the design teams are doing what they need to be doing that will not ever show up in that performance calculation. I know the software's fun. It's fun, right? Unless you're frustrated and then you hate it. But there is more to what we do than the performance approach. Okay, when does the code go into effect?
Really?
When does the code go into effect?
January 1st.
Is AB 130 affecting that at all?
No.
Excellent. Now, how many of you told your clients what your deadline is to get jobs done before the end of the year? Excellent. I see a couple hands have gone up. We at Gable, we shut our doors to any new multifamily October 1st. So for those of you who are still taking on 10-story multifamily buildings that want to submit for permit in December, please give me your contact information. I can send my clients to you because we ain't going to do it. If we're not going to do it right, we're not going to do it. And trying to get something on paper just to be in the 2025 code really in some cases just doesn't make sense. Okay, so let's talk about what's the major difference for a multifamily building this month versus the project going for permit in January. Because your clients are going to go, oh yeah, we're going to submit in December. They're lying. They're lying. They never make it. They never do. And all of a sudden they're going to come back to you that first week of January and go, yeah, we didn't quite make it to our building department in time. Can you just give us those 2025 forms? We won't need to redesign, right? Now you guys are going to know what they have to redesign. Occupancies. What occupancies are not allowed to get more stringent for the next 6 years? R. What's an R? That is single family, duplexes, townhomes, ADUs, hotel motel. multifamily, senior living facilities. There's our 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is a big category. It's every single one of those. Okay? Measurements. Measuring. So do you ever have clients ask you, well, what does that number mean? I'm glad it says complies, but what does that number mean? What do you tell them? I say, it means googly gook. It is a measurement. We're about to go into the 2028 measurement stakeholder meeting. I strongly recommend all of you attend it, because you're going to be amazed what you learn goes on under the hood in terms of how we quantify compliance. And it's looking at the efficiency measures of the energy code. It's looking at the temperatures and the building profile of the design of the building. It's looking at the societal cost of this moment in time of that building to the grid, and to the future grid, and to the future in terms of a carbon footprint. We are measuring a lot. There is a lot that goes into compliance. And for new construction, the least expensive time to integrate all of this, we have to show compliance to all those metrics. They are renaming TDD, time-dependent value, to source total metric. It's the same thing. They just took away the converter equation and converted it from a cost, a societal cost, to kVt per square foot. They just got rid of that last little formula. The numbers are going to be different though. The numbers are bigger. So if you're comfortable of, hey, a TDV margin of 2, I'm golden, it's going to be a different number. You're going to have to get more comfortable with what does a compliant margin look like, and is too good or is too bad, right? Because I like to get it right to 0. I've given my clients all the flexibility measures possible, and then I go, and if you find more money, this is what we'd like you to do, but I'm not going to put it in my report because I don't want to see you again. Actually, I want to see them all the time. But those are conversations we have to have. So we are moving on to efficiency. Well, we've always had efficiency. Who remembers when we measured therms in kilowatts? When did that end? When did we shift to TDV? Is that early 2000s? For those of you who are old enough, what was happening in the early 2000s? We were having major issues supplying the energy we needed on the grid for peak use conditions, and we were having brownouts and blackouts. So TDV is about what is your use now, but also what is your use during peak use conditions, 4 to 9 p.m. During peak use conditions, whether that's the summertime, or we're starting to see peak use conditions on the grid in the wintertime. Why?
Heat pumps.
Heat pumps. Okay, so what we're doing is changing the grid, and that's good. I mean, we heard with our keynote speaker this morning, we're making a difference. We just have to keep doing it. Total LSC is looking at the efficiency of the building, and then how much of your energy use are you providing on site. Source energy is a carbon proxy of the type of energy uses a building is using, and how much of that are you supporting on site. So I have natural gas, propane, gas, electricity, renewables. Which of those 4 is the most expensive? Propane. So when I have a building that's not on the natural gas grid, it immediately gets all this extra credit for anything we do to save space heating and water heating energy, which for a multifamily building, that's huge. The water heating budget of a multifamily building is huge. And what can we do to offset that? And if we're using natural gas, how can we offset that natural gas use on site?
Solar thermal.
You can. No, solar is about electricity. Oh, solar thermal, yeah, you're right. So sorry. I take that back. Solar thermal is all about for my water heating systems, which if it was gas, that would totally be saving it on site. We have had solar thermal requirements for our multifamily buildings for many, many, many code cycles. How many of you are putting solar thermal systems on your multifamily buildings? Yeah. If they are going to want gas water heating, there is no way you're going to be able to do it in the next code cycle without solar thermal, because that's the only thing we have for a huge load that's going to offset going to the natural gas grid. I have 4 energy sources: natural gas, propane gas, electricity, renewables. Which one of those is going to look horrible in my source energy metric? Natural gas. I'm burning it, and I have transmission issues when it comes to natural gas that I don't have with propane gas. All of this is going to make a difference. As you're like, Gina, I'm able to pass efficiency and total, but why can't I pass source? Understanding what is affecting these metrics is going to allow you guys to be successful in producing solutions to your clients that are cost effective. And all 3 have to show compliance. It's not majority wins in the energy code, it's all of it must win. Refrigerants. So you are guys aware of what our CARB boards? We have California Air Source Resource Board. We also have the South Coast. They have all these letters and I never can remember their name. They're aggressively going after gas. And they're aggressively going after refrigerants. So we've been using refrigerants that have been enabling high efficiency with our heat pump systems, our air conditioning systems. But there's a byproduct that is destroying the planet. So we're moving to different refrigerants that don't have as much a global warming potential impact. But what's the issue with these new refrigerants, Ken?
They are slightly flammable.
They are flammable. I'm not going to put the word slightly in there. I know you have to as a manufacturer, but they're flammable. Okay? And when we're talking about our various mechanical systems, what mechanical system type is going to have the most refrigerant around the entire building? VRF. And that's why that's one of the last ones on that table that's required to use the new refrigerants, because we've really had to think about the sacrifice of efficiency towards a different type of refrigerant, and then how we have to design, manage, and provide ventilation differently for our buildings that are using these refrigerants. So if you're not getting up to speed on what needs to happen to the design of the building based on how much refrigerant we have, please do. All your manufacturers are up to speed on it. Use Ken. Abuse Ken. Ken loves questions. Okay? All our manufacturers do. What energy efficiency rating system are we going to be using next year for multifamily? LSC. Be a little bit more enthusiastic. I didn't ask you this, but I want to ask you anyway. Who is actually doing the quality installation verification out in the field? It's that new grader.
No, let's not start that.
I'm sorry for those of you who are graders, but I'm sorry. Then she's changing from hers to ECC Energy Code Compliance. I'm the Energy Code Compliance person. So I'm sorry, you're graders in my mind. Mandatory requirements that are changing for this next code cycle. Can you give your clients flexibility of these measures? No. Is it going to show up in your compliance forms? No. This is where you have to work the hardest to make sure your clients are aware of these mandatory requirements. And let me tell you, a couple of these are a doozy for this 2025 code cycle. So when we talk about multifamily, we have to talk about dwelling unit and common use area. Okay? Now, a dwelling unit, permanent provisions for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation. I've been back and forth with the CEC just earlier this morning. It was 2 more emails about senior living facilities in which they have no cooking in the senior living dwelling units. Is that a dwelling unit then? No, because there's no cooking. And What do we use as one of the basis to size our PV systems? Dwelling unit count. But if it doesn't have living, sleeping, eating, cooking, sanitation, the CEC said as of this morning, then that means it's not a dwelling unit. And your dwelling unit count's going to be 0. These are things we have to consider, interpretations of the code language.
Gina,
Yes?
then how do you treat them? Are they common area?
I'm hoping to get clarity of which I actually agree with, maybe in the next couple of days, of which I did ask them once we figure this all out, put it in a blueprint, and they are committed to do that. So we'll all be waiting to see a blueprint and what's going on with dwelling units that are not dwelling units when we're trying to size things. We are changing our mandatory requirements for walls. So 2x4 is no longer R13, it's R15. 2x6 is no longer R20, it's R21. This is mandatory. Now you can do an overall weighted U factor, remember? So sometimes I might have some walls that have less than this, as long as the overall weighted U factor of all my framed walls equates to these U factors. This is also true for single family. So single family and multifamily are moving to these new mandatory requirements. Oh yeah, this one's fun. So, IAQ. Currently we can use an exhaust IAQ system, in which I'm using an exhaust fan in my dwelling unit for my fresh indoor air quality. If I'm using an exhaust fan, where's all that fresh air coming from? All the icky nooks and crannies that, what's living in those nooks and crannies, things that would give us nightmares.
The air is coming from a filtered ventilation. But
No,
what gets
that's
pulled through
not
the walls,
for an exhaust system. The exhaust system, there's no filtered air. It's filtered through all of the nooks and crannies, is what's going on. Now, I can have a supply air system in which I have filtered supply air that's serving the space, but now I potentially am overpressurizing it, which for multifamily can be an issue. Do you want that door to slam on you and take your toes off your foot, or do you want it where you have to and it won't stay closed? And these are all things we have to think about when we're designing our ventilation systems. What's on the other side of the door? We have balance systems where I have equal supply CFM to exhaust CFM. Now I have that filtered supply air, I have exhaust air, and now I've introduced the ability to use ERV and HRV to capture the heating and cooling of the air that's being exhausted and transferring it to my supply air. That's what the energy code wants. Now, the big difference is exhaust only is no longer allowed for multifamily. That is the most common method. Gone overnight. Rethink it. Your clients are going to go, what? No, it's mandatory. I cannot use the performance approach to give you flexibility of this measure. Now, when I do a non-balanced system for current code, I trigger compartmentalization testing. Have any of you had a project successfully go through the compartmentalization testing? I have Greg in the room, so you guys, have you had it happen successfully? Every single time? There's never an issue? Yeah, you gotta work on it. You gotta work at it. Your contractors need to know what a tight enclosure means, because this is unit to unit. I wanna make sure I don't smell your cabbage that you're cooking. I don't wanna smell whatever you're smoking. I want my own pure air. Next code, this starting in January, compartmentalization testing is mandatory for all IAQ system types for new construction. It's not based on your IAQ system anymore. 1, you can't do exhaust only. 2, you have to do compartmentalization testing. This is what I've been bringing up to my clients about, are we gonna go in this year, or are we gonna go in next year? Because this is a huge change. Dave?
Yeah, for the balance system, are they going to require HVI numbers?
Prescriptively, HVI, yeah.
because I know a lot of designers that are providing.
But
supply.
I have to say the HVI AHAM is for single family. That is not one of the criteria for multifamily. So that's what I just had to, in that moment, had to get clear in my head. So that's not something we have to worry about for multifamily, though we do need the HVI and AHAM for the kitchen hoods in the multifamily dwelling units. That's where that's going to play into that arena, and we've already been dealing with that. Yes?
For the balanced renovation, they don't require heat recovery or energy recovery, right? They just
Prescriptively, we are required, and we'll get there next, to be HRV or ERV. So if we're not seeing those for our hotter climate zones, it's because we took a penalty in a performance calculation.
yeah, because right now I saw for me many the project they doing balanced renovation right now, but they're not doing energy recovery.
So John's asking, hey, if I'm doing balanced ventilation, why aren't I doing ERV and HRV? And a lot of times I find when I'm, especially I do the taller multifamily buildings, we don't have much room. And where are we going to have the inlet and the outlet that are then not within a certain feet of any operable openings to the dwelling unit? That exit and that inlet have to be so many feet from each other. There's all these things I have to be able to consider that are going to affect my ability to have the inlet and outlet associated with an ERV HRV system. And am I going to do a one-to-one where it's an ERV HRV system for every dwelling unit? Or am I going to do a central system? Or am I going to do a combination of maybe it's a central exhaust system, but it's a individual supply system? That one's very popular with my clients. So there's a lot we have to consider when we're thinking about IAQ systems, and we need to get up to speed on what are the different ventilation systems out there. Sharon?
What is the definition of a balanced ventilation system?
Oh, it was one. I thought John was going to go there actually. So thank you, Sharon. What is the definition of a balanced ventilation system? So current code says you're going to have equal CFM supply to exhaust, but that causes issues. That sometimes is where we have our units are overpressurized or underpressurized. I find a lot of my clients want to have the supply a little bit higher than the exhaust. And in this next code cycle, they changed the definition of balanced so that it doesn't have to be equal CFM anymore. That's another big change.
But
Okay.
does it right now they have like 10% or 20%
What
allowance?
about the 20%?
I have to look that up. Now you're asking a memory cell that died. Gosh, stayed Mai Tai last night. I would have had that if I didn't have that Mai Tai. I might have to get back to you guys on that. Okay. Ventilation outside the dwelling units. Way back in time. Gosh, I remember being the youngest female in the room every single time I worked in my mechanical engineering firm, and now I am the freaking oldest. But way back in time, the mechanical code said you're going to take the number of people set by the egress requirements. What code dictates egress? A fire code and building code said egress of how many people are allowed to. Do we see the sign anywhere that says how many people can be in this room? AHJ's in the room. There's a space we need to talk about because that's required. Is it over there?
I see a frame up there.
Can you read what does it say, Andrew?
446.
446. So 446 people could habitate this space. And we designed the egress and we designed things so that that 446 amount of people can safely get out of the space if there's an emergency. The mechanical code and what the energy code used to do is take half that. So 223 times 15 CFM per person, and that sets a minimum ventilation rate. But then we would also look at, well, what are we doing here? Well, this is an assembly space. So we're going to take the square footage and we're going to multiply it times a CFM factor based on what type of space is it and how big is it. Then also half of the egress requirements of the fire code, the greater of the two sets your minimum ventilation requirements. In the 2019 code, they for some reason introduced that the mechanical engineer could decide how many people were going to be in this space, and we didn't have to go to the building code for the egress numbers. Then immediately I had a target. It was a target, And the building department called me and they went, okay, they changed all the rules regarding ventilation. This was 2019. And the engineer says there'll only ever be 5 people in this target. And they did that so that they can get rid of 50 tons of cooling, because if they did it to the egress requirements, then we have a lot more ventilation air, meaning we have higher heating and cooling loads. So for 2025, we're going back to how it was done before 2019, in which it's going to be based on egress, based on square footage, the greater of the two. Fixed spaces, if I have fixed seating, like in a theater, then I can do it based on how many seats are within that space. They did add some space types. This is not multifamily, sorry. We did add some space types. There are some space types that have been added to support occupancy L being subject to the energy code for the first time. So there are some new occupancy types, but it's mainly to help support laboratory. I was so excited last code cycle. 2022 code cycle was the very first time the minimum required pipe insulation for domestic hot water heating systems was exactly the same as the plumbing code. I no longer had to talk, okay, I know the plumbing code has that table, but you can ignore that for this multifamily building. It was great. They changed it. And for 2025, the multifamily hot water pipe insulation requirements have increased, but the plumbing code did not change. So we now no longer align with the plumbing code when it comes to minimum ventilation, minimum pipe insulation. They're also dictating what needs to be insulated. It's been crazy how often we see just whole parts of the hot water heating system not insulated. Really? Why even put insulation on it if you're not going to do all of it? So it's saying, yeah, you're going to do all of it. There are some new requirements regarding the ventilation associated with our heat pump ready for water heating if we have one water heater for every dwelling unit. I don't do those type of projects. Mine always have central water heating systems where my system's serving 2 or more dwelling units. But if it's 1 for 1, and I somehow got that performance calculation to support a gas water heater, good luck. Then I'd have to do the heat pump ready with these new ventilation requirements. That will be in play for wherever that space is being reserved for the water heater. And this is the other reason why I talk to my clients about going in before the end of the year or after next year. Because if somehow we're able to show gas central water heating to work for a new multifamily building, and this also applies to hotel motel, by the way. Hotel motel has to meet all of the prescriptive water heating requirements of the multifamily chapters. So this applies to both hotel motel and multifamily. If I am putting in a gas central system, I will have to be central heat pump ready. And this is big. This is big. The amount of storage I need for a heat pump central system is very different than the storage I need for a gas system. And you thought you were saving that space by going gas, but you didn't, because now you still have to reserve it. You have to design and install the electric infrastructure for that future heat pump system. You thought you were reducing the cost of your electric install and all the transformers you needed for the building? Nope. Because that has to be designed into the building day one, even if you're using a gas central system. And I know only 7 people are signing up for my pool and spa session on Wednesday, so I'm forcing all of you to be aware of the fact that I don't care if that's a single family pool, a multifamily pool, a commercial pool, a hotel motel pool, I don't care. The pool industry are like, Gina, this doesn't apply to commercial pools. I'm like, where does it say that in the code? It doesn't say that anywhere. They're like, you're kidding me. Have you guys known we've had pool and spa requirements since the 2005 code? Yeah. Are you helping your clients understand the pool and spa requirements? Why aren't you helping them? That's right, because it's mandatory. Heat pump, heat pump, heat pump. Prescriptive. How much time do I have?
Oh, still 20 minutes.
Oh, I can slow down. Okay, we can go back to this. So, the primary heating source is either going to be a solar thermal system, in which I'm sizing the solar tubes to be at least 60 or 65% of the surface of the pool. That's whether it's single family or a non-single family pool. That's one option. I have it currently, so that's not new. Current code says the pool heater has to be gas. Can you imagine that we are only now addressing the fact that the energy code allows for huge gas pool heaters and that they're changing it for this next code cycle? Now, current code says that your supplemental heating system cannot be electric resistance, and that does not support heat pump pool heating technology. So the changes that are being made are, one, gas is never going to be your primary heating source anymore. For a new pool or a pool that's being heated for the first time, this does not apply to existing heated pools of which I have to replace the pool heater. They get to keep whatever they already had for now. The heat pump system is to be sized to be the primary, or if I'm going to go solar, the solar system has to be sized to be primary. I can use gas as a supplemental heating source, but I have to prove that I have sized the heat pump pool heater as the primary heating source. I'm either going to use the manufacturer's directions on how to size their equipment for the size and location of that pool, or there's going to be a new joint dependencies that is going to be an alternative method to size those systems if the manufacturer doesn't have the guidance. All the pool manufacturers have the guidance. I don't think you'll ever have to crack open that new joint dependencies chapter at all. What's the deal about heat pump pool heaters? Why are my clients going, what? They're huge. They take up at least 5 times more space than you had to reserve for a gas pool heater. And you need lots of ventilation. So we've been looking at like our multi-family hotel motel projects, and we're like, show us the pool heater room. Oh, look at how quaint that little pool heater room is. You need one 5 times bigger. We don't have space for it. Then you don't do a heated pool. But we don't have space for it. Don't do a heated pool. Give us another. These are things we have to talk about. Now, there is an option of which you can prove that 60% of the total heating load throughout the year for whatever pool heater of choice is offset by on-site, either renewables, geothermal, any sort of renewable type of system. Then you can use whatever you want to use. But we are definitely finding a lot of our clients are wanting to use PV for that, and that is a pretty big PV system to offset the 60% of the heating needs over the course of the entire year. This has become a much bigger conversation with my clients in the last few months than I have ever had regarding pools and heaters in the last 20 years with those same exact clients. Are we ready for prescriptive? Now we get to start to talk about flexibility. Everything else we just talked about, no flexibility, and you guys have to get your clients up to speed on it. Envelope. So we have all these different roof types, and this is just like single family. The requirements are not the same as single family, by the way, guys, so don't think these same numbers will apply to single family. We just have similar roof constructions. We have attic roofs, vented attic roofs. Now, I don't have vented attic roofs with my multifamily buildings. Do you guys have vented attic roofs with your multifamily buildings?
Oh, yeah.
Tim, you do?
All the time.
So it's going to follow just like it does for single family, where I want a high performance attic. I want insulation at the roof deck, whether that's above, below, or the roof deck itself is something like SIPs, where it is that R value integrated into it. And I'm going to have insulation at the ceiling of the attic. It has to be a vented attic, otherwise you have to go performance and take a penalty. And I also need to have an air space below the roofing material and above the roof deck, which is common for tile roof. What type of roofs do you do, Tim?
Built-up roof, flat roofs.
So like a built-up roof, you don't have an air space below that roofing product. So we would have to use the performance approach. And just so you know, you're taking a penalty for not having an air gap between your roofing material and your roof deck. Then we have radiant barrier that's going to be on the underside of that roof deck, but only when I don't have insulation underneath the roof deck. So it's associated with what climate zones need to have that below roof deck insulation versus not. Then we have roofing requirements. And this is all about the rated cool roof requirements, stage, solar reflectance, thermal emittance. If you guys don't know what that means, we have excellent classes in Energy Code ACE that you could take. We have a great fact sheet that walks through it. We're going to have more cool roof required for more climate zones now. And be aware that the triggers to altered roofs are different from new construction when it comes to rated roofing products for re-roofs. They did not match the same exact climate zones as they did in previous code cycles. You can see here the only thing that's highlighted in orange is that rated cool roof requirement. More climate zones are going to be required to meet these requirements. Here, oh, I found this one. What's a 0.28 U factor for a window represent to you? What type of window is that? It's a vinyl window, right? It's a high-performing vinyl window. Do you guys work in cities in which they don't allow vinyl windows on certain facades? Because I do. So that means I have to take a humongous penalty for the fact that my planning department is not allowing me to even think about vinyl windows on my projects. This new lower U factor of 0.28, I find most of my products I've been seeing is like a 0.29. I have to push my clients even harder now. So I used to get some credit actually a little bit with my U factors of my windows for my multifamily buildings, not anymore. So what's happening here, I don't think it's really going to affect what products we're using. It's going to affect how much flexibility do I have, because windows take up quite a bit of my flexibility budget. It is the number one feature that costs the most on my project. That one building feature can make the difference in thousands upon thousands of dollars, depending upon what window package we're able to get to work. And this is true even for altered windows. Altered windows, fixed windows are now 0.28 U factor. It's going to be really hard to do for altered windows. Mechanical. Cooling towers. Love those cooling towers. How many of you work with cooling towers? A few of you. These efficiency, they've gotten high enough where our cooling towers are a heck of a lot bigger and heavier. The bigger the piece of equipment when it comes to cooling towers, usually the more efficient it is. And they talked about upping the efficiency for at least 2 code cycles now, and the reason they kind of didn't go there is because of the weight associated with these cooling towers, but they went, we gotta go there. So there are exceptions when I'm altering an existing cooling tower, and if it's not on the ground, then I don't have to meet these requirements, because if it's on the roof or within the building, I probably don't have enough structural integrity or space for these more efficient cooling towers. When we are talking about, this is about ventilation again, prescriptively, you're required to do balanced and liquid climate zones. ERV and HRV is prescriptively required. This means if you don't have them, you're taking a penalty. These aren't credits, these are penalties if you don't have them. If you have a central IAQ system, like I said, I have a lot of times where they'll have the exhaust fan is serving multiple dwelling units, but there'll be individual supply fans within each of the dwelling units. These requirements are potentially going to apply also depending upon your climate zone and the scope of the project.
Hey, Gina,
Yes?
back to John's question about the HRV and the ERV. Our understanding is of it is with the new ARVs, if the vent is concentric and UL listed, that you don't need any separation. Is that your understanding, or is the energy code going to do something that differs from the mechanical?
The energy code, so Tim's question is about that distance between the inlet and outlet, I'm assuming is what you're talking about?
The ERVs now have concentric UL listed where they come out in the same opening.
Right,
One pulls
okay.
sideways, one pulls from the front.
The energy code doesn't go there. So if it's something that's allowed by the other codes, great. I just find that the other codes, especially the mechanical code, is where I'm really gonna be looking at to see what are my options. I have to be looking and seeing whether there are the changes to the 2025 mechanical code before I can tell you, yeah, that's not a big deal or it is a big deal. Because it doesn't live in the energy code. Okay, so no changes here. The baseline for mechanical equipment for all multifamily dwelling units is heat pump. This was a big change for 2022. Because we used to have it, if it was a multifamily building, 10 stories or more, it would be 4-pipe fan coil. But now I'm compared to a heat pump DX system, which the taller my building, the farther away I am from my outdoor condensers, the more difficult it is for me to be able to support a heat pump system versus a VRF or a 4-pipe fan coil system. Fault indicator display. So this is the big change for ERVs and HRVs, of which there needs to be a fault indicator display provided by the manufacturer that somehow tells the person living in that dwelling unit, you've got issues with your ERV, HRV system, and you need to have someone come out and do maintenance. It could be tied to the thermostat. It could be a display that's on the underside of the unit, and I look up at the ceiling in my bathroom or whatever, wherever my ERV system is, and it's giving me guidance about what's going on. Now, the Energy Commission has tried to make fault indicator displays something we do for decades now. Is Russ in the room? Russ and I always had jokes, this is the sparkly unicorn of the energy code, where it sounds like a great idea, but there have been no products out there that can actually satisfy the FID requirements. What makes this different is it is prescriptive, so I could trade it away, but I don't know the impact yet of that trade away, because I just told you about how the walls are more stringent because of the mandatory insulation requirements. The windows got more stringent. I have things I have to think about with the ventilation system. Do I have the ability to trade away an FID? It might not be what my client wants, in which then now I need to find products that can meet this. Do we have any vendors out there who are having any FID equipment? Do we have an ERV, HRV vendor?
I think right now only Sender and Brain have.
Which one? Who?
Sender and Brain.
Sense.
Sender.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, only Sender and Brain. Yeah, it's two manufacturers.
So for water heating, we do have a gas water heater option for high-rise multifamily, but they removed that as a choice for low-rise multifamily. But still, if you're using performance, suddenly now you have to meet that source energy metric and that total energy metric, of which especially trying to use gas water heating is going to be very, very difficult in that performance calculation. Central systems have new efficiency metrics also. Central heat pump, we want either a NEA Tier 2 or a single pass. So I have a lot of clients that really prefer a multi-pass system. That means I have to take a performance penalty because I will be compared to a single pass system when I run that calculate button. And what is going to be the impact of that? Well, we have to discover that together as we get software that's fully functioning and has results that we can rely on. This next one to me is the biggest. And I want to challenge all of you, how the heck are we going to support this? For multifamily and hotel motel, because remember all the prescriptive water heating requirements for multifamily apply to hotel motel also. The plumbing code appendix M, which is a voluntary alternative calculation for my water heating sizing, and it's reducing the water heating sizing tremendously. So my developers love this new requirement because they're going to pay less in copper for their domestic hot water heating systems because the sizing is going to be much lower. But this has been a voluntary measure for a few code cycles now. And not all building departments allow you to use Appendix M. But now the energy code is saying, you're going to use Appendix M. And what does that mean to you? Who here knows how to do an Appendix M calculation? how do you know that that hot water heating design is truly meeting Appendix M or not? Are you going to try and trade this away or not? What are you going to give to your clients as goodies for them to understand what this means, what it needs to look like in the drawings, and why one little probably check mark in your NRCC perf form is either going to allow for you to either say I'm doing it or I'm not? What's the impact? What does the design look like? You have to know more about plumbing. Now that's the joy of what we do. We touch everything. We have to know everything. We are the biggest know-it-alls in the entire design team. Own it, love it. Get more information about Appendix M. We have new mechanical or digital thermostatic master mixing valves for when I have a recirculation system serving 9 or more dwelling units. I'm finding most of my mechanical engineers are doing this already, and they're like, Gina, we got you covered. That is not a biggie. But now you need to know what is that, how does it show up in the drawing set, and are you going to take a penalty in the performance calculation or not? Because this is prescriptive. What is a valid IAQ ventilation system for this next 2025 code cycle? I'm hearing a lot of C's. B and C. Prescriptively, you're required to do C, but you can take a penalty in a performance calculation and do B, but you can't do exhaust only because that's a mandatory restriction. So there's no flexibility in the performance approach to support exhaust IAQ systems in the dwelling units anymore. Which of these water heaters can be used prescriptively to serve a brand new dwelling unit that is a low-rise multifamily building? I'm hearing A, I'm hearing B. Do we not have any electric resistance allowed? We do. If the dwelling unit's less than 500 square feet, electric resistance, now what the big change they made there is current code cycle says an instantaneous electric resistance water heater. That was really dumb. The electric load for instantaneous water heater serving a dwelling unit is ridiculous. So we are very actually happy that they changed the code and they got rid of the word instantaneous. So now a tank electric resistance water heater, which makes a heck of a lot more sense for that dwelling unit, 500 square feet or less, is going to be a viable option. Lighting, ooh, I forgot I was going here. So dwelling units, it's matching, okay? What do I have to do for dwelling unit lighting? What controls do I use in the dwelling unit? You guys all should have this down because you are talking to your clients every single time, supporting these mandatory requirements for these dwelling units. You would hope, wish the electrical engineers are up to speed on it. They're not. It's got to be you. You're the ones who live in the energy code. Everyone else doesn't live there. So I need a dimmer for all habitable spaces. What's habitable? We saw it earlier, living, sleeping, kitchen, right? And for bathrooms, what type of control do I need for at least one fixture? Occupancy sensor. Used to be vacancy sensor, but they have renamed it occupancy sensor because there's just so many products. You just open up and you just move a little thing and now it's a vacancy sensor. They changed it saying as long as it auto shuts off when the space is vacant, that's good enough for the energy code, and that applied as of this code cycle. And what type of LED lighting systems am I using in my dwelling units? JA8, JA8. Yeah. But as soon as I'm not in the dwelling unit, now the requirements look, feel, act, and quack like non-residential. And there's a lot more control requirements, and there's a lot more I need to do in terms of my lighting design. Dwelling units, just say it's all JA8 and let's just call it done. Outside the dwelling units, I need to know the lighting equipment schedule. How many of you have been using the tailored method for your commercial common use areas of a multifamily building? Yeah, they said, Gina, only 2% of all the people who are using Energy Pro, the virtual compliance assistants, etc., are using the tailored approach, and your name was on most of them. I love the tailored approach. For retail, for dining in a restaurant, it's the way to go, man. So why am I not upset right now when I'm telling you tailored has been removed? Why am I so chill? They moved all the tailored allowances to the area category approach. I did not lose my wattage. It moved to an easier method. So they've simplified the code by getting rid of 5 pages on how you use the tailored approach. We got rid of 4 pages of the compliance form that were all about tailored. So the moving of tailored categories to area category wasn't actually to reduce wattage usage, it was to simplify the code. So we're going to be, there's some space types like retail, conference rooms, you're going to go, oh my God, this table is so hard to read. It's so hard to read. Take a breath. Hey, Sally. Sally. She's not paying attention. She's already, say, it's all my fault. Sally is the one who took the lead on all of this. Just, how many of you use the additional lighting power allowance columns? See, I keep telling the CEC, everyone uses the general allowance and they never go to the right-hand side of this table anyway. Don't stress. Use it. Guys, I hope you take my lighting classes because I teach you how to use all these and how they're an invaluable tool to help you support your clients. And I get to use this in my performance calculation and give my clients flexibility. That's pissing off a few people at the Energy Commission, so don't tell them, shh, Sarah, close your ears right now. Okay. I'm going to max out what I'm allowed for the wattage allowances in my common use area because I get to use it towards those windows. Because remember, the lighting and the conditioned areas of my building are part of my bucket that I get to use for flexibility. Don't leave the additional lighting power allowances on the table. Because then I'm going to take over your clients because I use them and I give them flexibility. Compete against me, people. That's what we want to have happen. So that's the main thing that's happened there. PV and battery, the methodology has changed a little bit. So Sarah, solar access roof area. Currently I multiply my Sarah times 14 watts. I don't care the slope of the roof. Starting in January, my low sloped roof, that's a pitch 2/12 or less, I'm going to multiply times 14 watts, just like I have been. My steep sloped roof, anything that has a pitch greater than 2/12 and is not facing north, I'm going to multiply times 18 watts. So my prescriptive wattage sizing got a little bit higher, not much, okay? How many of you are doing solar assessment reports? A few of you? If you're not doing them yourself, find someone who does. Because leaving the Sarah method on the table, because you don't have the tools, is the worst thing you can do to your clients. Okay? Find a way to support multiplying the square footage times one value based on my climate zone and using the Sarah method because I do both, and the lower of the two sets my minimum PV requirements. And I try and get it as small as possible so my clients can decide how they want to spend their money and if they want to make those PV systems larger. Like Tim is all about maxing it out. So what I'll be helping Tim with is let's do it on every inch that's going to pay for itself. You tell me what your solar assessment number is. Tim might go, I want to put it anywhere where I'm over, 65% solar access. The code says I only have to consider areas that are over 70% annual solar access. So the methodology of how we go about doing this has not changed. Our numbers based on the conditioned floor area have not changed. They have changed dramatically for non-residential, by the way. Staying the same is true for multifamily, but it is not true for other non-residential building types. Exceptions have stayed pretty much the same except for the VNEM one. virtual net energy metering if I have a multi-tenant building, which is a multi-family building, right? If I don't have a utility that can support breaking down that PV production to the various meters of the dwelling units on the property, I don't have to do PV. But the utilities are dropping their VNEN programs, and we don't want to drop PV in our multifamily buildings. And they're introducing some new programs that are based on about bill credit, et cetera, and so forth. So they've added some new language to help support some of the new utility programs that are being introduced that are replacing VNEN. Battery. What I like about what's happening this next code cycle for battery, the values have not changed. For multifamily, they have changed quite a bit for non-residential building types, but they made this formula go on steroids. Who here loves a math equation? All of you, we're energy consultants, you better be raising your hand, because that's what we do, right? So they just made this your favorite equation because they have added 3 more layers of complexity to this particular formula. What's great about it is now, when I use the SARA method, I have an appropriate way of sizing the battery system based on the SARA current code cycle. If I'm using SARA, it causes a major headache in trying to determine the minimum battery sizing because there wasn't a SARA pathway supported with the current formulas. So this is a good thing because it's allowing me to take my SARA PV number all the way to my battery sizing and beyond. They are changing some of the formulas in terms of how we size battery, but I am not finding it's really changing the size of my battery sizes. It's just changing the methodology. And in fact, is Mohammed in the room? Mohammed, you made it better. So thank Mohammed for that. He gave us a SARA methodology and he simplified the divide by 4, yes, for battery sizing. So things are a little bit easier in determining minimum battery sizing. The exceptions are staying exactly the same. There are no changes to the exceptions for battery. Which prescriptive compliance lighting method was removed for the 2025 code cycle? Tailored. You guys didn't use it, but you're going to use it now because it's an area, and you're like, yeah, I want to compete against you, Gina. Which of these valid solar PV exceptions have been introduced for this code cycle? Well, which one of these are valid? What's a true exception? I'm going to give you that one because I kind of flew through PV. Next steps. Who wants to take an Energy Codex class? Yes. If you want to hear Martin's voice, please take our What's New for either residential or for non-residential. We have a series of new videos that's really cool. I want all of you guys to watch the SARA video. It's 4 minutes and 20 seconds, something like that. And it really explains nicely how to determine your SARA number. We have fact sheets. We are here to answer your questions. And I'm now done. Thank you so very much.